Turning now to an update on several high-profile criminal cases happening right here in the Valley. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell answering our questions on these cases. And 12 News journalist Sean Rice is here in studio with more on what he asked the county attorney, starting with a drowning that really made big headlines, Sean.
Yeah, Tram, this is arguably the most high-profile case currently under review by County Attorney Rachel Mitchell's office, and it is a child drowning in Chandler. 3-year-old Trig Kaiser died inside their family pool back in May. He is the son of popular social media influencer Emily Kaiser. Now, just this week, Chandler police say they have concluded their investigation into the drowning. They say they've referred a Class 4 felony charge of child abuse with a theory of negligence for Brady Kaiser, that's Trig's dad, to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Now, Trig died 6 days after being found unconscious in the couple's backyard pool. Court records say that Brady was home alone with Trig and that he told police he'd lost sight of his son, and when he went to check on him, he found him unconscious in the pool. Now, County Attorney Rachel Mitchell said her office is still in the process of reviewing that case, and she said they have not made a decision on whether or not Brady will be charged. She did, however, walk us through the difference between what is civil child abuse and what can be considered a crime when it comes to child abuse. Take a listen.
Civil negligence means that someone's carelessness results in harm to another person. So if you're the attorney on that, you have to show that the person had a legal duty to that person, that they breached that duty, and because they breached that duty, that person was harmed. Criminal negligence is totally different, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we have to file charges in this case. Criminal negligence means that the person fails to perceive, so they don't perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the result will happen.
County Attorney Mitchell went on to read directly from the state law, which says the risk must be so substantial that it is a gross deviation from the standard of care that a reasonable person would observe. Now, Mitchell would not comment on any specific evidence, like if there was a pool fence around the couple's family pool the day this drowning happened. She also did not give a timeline on when or even if the case will be charged. Tram.
All right, so let's take a legal deep dive into the Kaiser case. Joining me now is Josh Coles-Root, a criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor. And Josh, you've also worked with Rachel Mitchell at the county attorney's office. Thanks for being here. Let's take a deep dive on this case. You just heard Mitchell talk about the difference between criminal versus civil negligence. It's very rare when you hear of possible child abuse charges coming out of a drowning. What do you think the county attorney's office will decide? Will he be charged formally?
Well, these are great questions. And in preparation for today's interview, I found out that last year there were 20 child drownings in the state of Arizona. And as far as I could research and find out, there were no criminal charges that came from that. So in this case, what Rachel Mitchell said is true. When somebody is criminally negligent, when they owe a substantial duty of harm and they grossly deviate from that, and then in this case, a child is either hurt or is killed. So the thing that they're going to be looking for is, number one, we know that Brady was home alone watching 2 children. Mm-hmm. And at some point, he was distracted, he said, for 3 to 5 minutes. And the police and also Rachel Mitchell, what they're going to look at is, was that distraction? The reason for the distraction, was it grossly deviated from the norm, or was it more just like a tragic accident? And so what they look for is, has this happened before? And when you're unfortunately an influencer, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of CCTV footage, especially from your backyard. So, I imagine that the Chandler Police Department over the last 3 months has really scoured over these surveillance videos to see if Brady has left 1 or 2 of the children near the pool, and how many times has he left the pool covering open or closed. Also, what they're going to look at is, was he drinking? Because that would be another reason why they would pursue charges in a case like this. But right now, we don't know, and it's just pure speculation.
All right. Let's move on to the next case. And Sean, you discussed with the county attorney the defendants in the Preston Lord trial as well.
Yeah, this was a hearing we had reported on earlier this week in terms of a delay on the Preston Lord murder trial. We want to get Josh's opinion on that. That Queen Creek teen was killed at a Halloween party back in 2023. And most recently, a judge did push back the trial date for the 6 suspects charged with first-degree murder. The attorneys for 6 East Valley defendants told the judge they needed more time to go over the evidence and discovery in the case. Preston's parents objected to this being done as they have sat through a lot of hearings as they wait for justice in their son's case. This is what Mitchell said this afternoon about the judge pushing that trial date back.
When we first got the submittal back in December of 2023, a lot of people were wanting very quick results on that. And I stood at this very podium and I said, this is a huge police report. It's got 600 videos and many, many other pieces of evidence. You know, while we want to get swift justice for the victim and certainly his family, it's been going on a long time for them. I understand that. It is a very complex case, and so a 6-month continuance was granted.
And the judge told each defense team earlier this week that they will have to wait until November to potentially separate their cases from one another. That is if they choose to do so. Tram.
So, Josh, in light of that, I mean, you know, is there a strategy or, you know, some kind, what's the reasoning behind having them all do this joint trial together?
Well, great question. So, you know, what the Maricopa County Attorney's Office has done is they've joined the defendants together as opposed to trying each one severally or severing the cases. The reason why they do that is because it saves time and resources. Also, because of the way that the case is charged, and they did, you know, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office has been brilliant in this case. Each defendant has joint liability or accomplice liability. So let's say that one of the defendants was the primary aggressor, even one that delivered the final blow. But one of the other defendants didn't really do too much, but he did hold Preston Lord down for a couple of seconds, and he facilitated or helped in the robbery of stealing his chain. He's equally culpable, and he can still get the same sentence for first-degree murder as the person who is the primary aggressor.
Oh, is that fair though? I mean, that sounds like it would, you know, it would hurt the other defendant.
It does,
Yeah.
and it's so if you're a prosecutor, you love this strategy, and you want to try to keep the defendants together because you can bring in more evidence, and you can show the jury that, you know, this was it was almost like a conspiracy. And in a conspiracy or accomplice liability, you can bring in hearsay that you wouldn't ordinarily be allowed to bring in. You can bring in other types of evidence against this defendant, and the jury hears it, even though they're given a limiting instruction, which they will, which means that the jury will be told, you can only consider evidence against defendant 1, but not defendant 3. But it's so difficult for a jury in reality to do that. And so the cards are going to be so stacked against these defendants if the judge does not sever the case.
Yeah, I mean, from the jury to the defendants, I mean, having it all joint together, it's kind of like a, you know, one-size-fits-all type of thing. And it sounds like that would really hurt the defense team.
It does, but there is one caveat here. So there is a Supreme Court case, U.S. v. Bruton. So what that says is that if a defendant does not take the witness stand, that the prosecutor cannot bring in his statements if he mentions any other defendant in there because it's a violation of his right to cross-examine a witness. So let's say defendant 1 said, yeah, we all did this, but he chooses not to take the witness stand. The prosecutor can't bring in that statement. So there are positive things for the defense attorneys here that limit the amount of evidence for statements that their clients may have given.
All right, interesting. Well, we'll have to wait till November to see, you know, if the defense actually files for separate trials.
Oh, and they already have, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
they have.
Yep.
All right. Well, Sean, our last case is on Adam Sheaf. He's the one who admitted to killing a pastor in New River. This, again, made big headlines.
It is. Adam Sheaf is currently awaiting extradition back here to Maricopa County to face a murder charge in the brutal killing of a New River pastor. This was back in April. Sheaf has admitted to strangling and crucifying Pastor Bill Shaneman inside his New River home.
That he had a Wednesday evening Bible study, so I sat there and waited for them to arrive so that I could locate which one was the priest, and then I just followed him home, and then I returned on Sunday to execute and crucify him to his wall.
And those were the words in an interview with 12 News from Sheaf. He was inside the Coconino County Jail. This was last month. And today, County Attorney Mitchell said she is aware of his admittance of murdering Pastor Bill Schaineman. She offered no comment on his words, and she told us, quote, stay tuned on if he will be charged here in Maricopa County.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So what do you make of, I mean, clearly a lot of people, including yourself, has seen Sheaf confess, admit to the murders, even say that go ahead, you know, sentence me to die.
Yep.
So, I mean, is this clearly a death penalty case?
If this isn't a death penalty case, I don't know what is. So typically, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, they're going to review any death as a potential death penalty case. We call it the death panel. And what they look at are the statutory aggravating factors. So in this case, I've identified three. You know, was it done in a cruel and heinous manner? You know, the answer is yes. Was the victim in a vulnerable group? That is, was he over 70 years old? The answer is yes. Also, was this crime religious motivated? That is, did the defendant murder this pastor because of his religious beliefs, or did he try to suppress his beliefs by murdering him? And the answer is yes to all three of those questions. So if this defendant is requesting the death penalty, Rachel Mitchell would be, you know, right by giving, you know, by saying yes to his request, because that would be justice.
Question I have, Josh, is if a defendant, somebody who hasn't even been charged with murder, he has not been charged with murder yet. I'm assuming that may come shortly. He admits on public television to murdering someone. Does that help or hurt the prosecution?
Well, it sounds on its face like it's a confession. And as long as it wasn't coerced, as long as there wasn't law enforcement involved that asked, you know, a news reporter to ask these questions without reading Miranda rights, barring some type of suppression of those statements, the answer is yes. They can absolutely come in, and it's just as good as any confession that he could give to a detective in the case. So absolutely.
So if you were his defense attorney, I mean, what would you argue?
Insanity. It has to be some type of diminished capacity, that he didn't understand his actions and the consequence of his actions. But when you hear him talk, and certainly giving his confession, it's going to be incredibly difficult to make that argument with a straight face.
Right, no kidding. All right, Josh, we really appreciate your time and insight. Sean, great job with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Okay, thank you both.